Do you know which country has only 5% of the world's population, yet 25% of the world's prison population? If you answered the United States of America, you're correct. We have the highest rate of mass incarceration worldwide. Many of these are repeat offenders and nonviolent offenders. According to Wendy Sawyer, at least 1 in 4 people who go to jail will reoffend. This is often due to poverty, mental illness, and substance abuse disorder. These issues are seldom addressed in our prison system, and so it makes sense that these people would reoffend. A quote from Jeremiah Mosteller: "Something must change if we are to achieve an effective justice system that protects and enhances public safety while respecting human dignity." Have you heard the phrase, "prisons just make better criminals"? Now, if our prison system is not prioritizing reform and rehabilitation, this is true, unfortunately. People will go to prison, they'll learn different, better ways to do their crimes, and they'll form stronger ties to different criminals. Until our prison system prioritizes reform and rehabilitation and treats the core issues of why people are offending, we cannot reduce recidivism and we cannot reduce mass incarceration. Let's say hypothetically, you just spent 20 years in prison and you're being released. Now hopefully you have a family and a strong support system to help get you back on your feet. Unfortunately, many people don't have this. So let's say in this scenario, you don't have a support system. You're released from prison with the clothes on your back, expected to find employment, housing, make all your parole visits, not break your curfew, and pay oftentimes unreasonable parole fees. So first thing you have to do is you have to find a job. A job has to be able to call you, so you need a phone. Hopefully you can acquire a free phone somehow, and you start applying for housing and employment. Now hopefully you can get into a halfway house or a treatment facility. However, these resources are in such high demand that the wait lists are often weeks, even months long. Now when you're applying for employment and housing, they're going to ask you if you have criminal history and or they're going to run a background check. Now if you answer yes to criminal history or you fail your background check, you will be denied for most jobs and most housing. If you do find a job, it's most likely a minimum wage job, probably not the greatest job, probably not working around the greatest people, but it's what you've got. According to Jeremiah Mosteller, social stigma and approximately 48,000 legal barriers prevent ex-offenders from acquiring housing and employment. About 74% of men are still searching for employment 8 months after release. This is a major issue. 8 months without employment, you don't really have a choice but to start stealing or committing crime. So you've got your minimum wage job, hopefully you can secure housing, and you still have to make all of your parole visits, make sure you don't break curfew, and pay your ridiculous parole fees. Our parole system is not geared towards rehabilitation. It's not geared towards second chances. Approximately 168,000 people were incarcerated for technical violations in 2016, according to Wendy Sawyer. Our parole system is not about giving people a hand up, it's about kicking them while they're down. So what can we do to change all of this? 2 things. First off, we need to be providing effective mental health treatment, addiction treatment, and assistance in coming out of that downward spiral of poverty and crime. Secondly, we need to be providing trade school, vocational training, and educational training in prisons. According to Wendy Sawyer, 95% of state prisoners will be released at some point in their lives, so it makes sense that we're setting them up for success. According to Jeremiah Mosteller, educational and vocational training has been studied extensively and is found to be some of the most effective programs in prison reform. Research shows that these types of programs reduce recidivism by 13%, they reduce prisoner misconduct by 4%, and they increase post-release employment by 13%. For every taxpayer dollar spent on these types of programs, it saves $5 in law enforcement and corrections expenditures in the future. Until our prison systems and we as a society are setting these people up for success and giving them a second chance, we cannot reduce recidivism and we cannot reduce mass incarceration.